The S26 Ultra is an absolute beast for gaming, and if you haven't had the chance to try out some games yet on that swanky new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor, you are missing out big time. So here are 20 of the best Android games that make the S26 Ultra feel like a real console. And we're going to start off with just that, the best console quality games for the S26 Ultra. And my first pick is undeniably a classic, and it is Tomb Raider. And this is exactly the kind of game that I want to see more of on Android, because it's not just some tiny mobile spin-off with a familiar name slapped on it. This is a proper console-style game running on your phone. You've got exploration, combat, climbing, set pieces, actual storylines, and then that full adventure game feeling. The S26 Ultra's display just makes everything pop in this game, but if you did want to go all out, this is the type of game that you could hook up to some XR glasses and a mobile controller and have a really amazing time. The game will take around 12.5 gigabytes of storage up, but once you've downloaded it, you can actually play it offline. Having a AAA game like this on your phone is honestly a dream come true. This video is 100% funded by me and not sponsored at all, but if you did want to get the exact controller that I'm using throughout this video, there will be a link to it in the pinned comment and the description for you. Using those affiliate links really does help me make more videos just like this one. That being said, this next game takes it all to the next level. It's Warframe Mobile. I mean, graphically, I think it's up there with the most visually impressive mobile games from the whole list. The S26 Ultra absolutely chews through it on max settings, and techie stuff aside, it is honestly so fun. It's super fast paced, it's multiplayer, and it works with a controller, although if you don't have one, touch controls also work pretty well too. If you want one of the best high graphic Android games that actually shows off what the S26 Ultra can do, Warframe Mobile is easily one of the first games I'd install, and at least at the time of writing, you can actually download this for free. It is also cross-platform too, so if you do play this on PC, I believe you can log in and get your daily rewards. Next, I am on that perilous journey to hit 50,000 subscribers, so if you could help me out by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you found the video helpful so far. Also, do consider joining as a channel member to get yourself a fancy badge for the comment section. Now, if Warframe and Tomb Raider weren't quite your thing, then check out my top racing game pick for the S26 Ultra. This is Grid Legends, relatively inexpensive for what you're getting. It's got solid reviews, and for a mobile experience, the graphics are genuinely awesome. It's got a bit of a storyline, huge selection of cars, and it's going to work with controllers, but perhaps the best thing about it is it works completely offline, so you don't need to be connected to the internet, making it a really great game to play when you're traveling. I will be touching on some more offline Android games later though, so do stay tuned for that. It's a really awesome game, and if you want to download it for yourself, I've put all 20 links to all of the games featured in this video on my Coffee blog post page. You don't need to donate, it's just a place to put all of the links without clogging up YouTube. The link will be in the pinned comment for that. Anyway, next up is Alien Isolation, and this is still one of the most impressive mobile ports that I've ever played. Not because it's the newest game on the list, but because it's one of those games where you look at it running on a phone and just think, how is this actually possible? This is a proper survival horror game. It's slow, tense, atmospheric, and completely different to the usual 5-minute mobile game. When Android gets proper console style games like this, phones like the S26 Ultra suddenly start to make a lot more sense, and you really do get your money's worth. Genuinely fun, anxiety inducing game, and you can try the first 2 missions absolutely free, so you really have got nothing to lose by downloading it. Anyway, my next really visually impressive game is Hitman Absolution. It's relatively new, but this one just makes your S26 Ultra feel like a proper console again. It runs perfectly smoothly on max settings, and it's extremely addictive. There's certainly a few ropes to learn, but it's a really interesting game because you can play it how you want. You can go hyper aggressive and shoot your way through the game, and you can go quiet and stealthy and take an arguably more intelligent route. With the controller, this is one of the best premium Android games that you can play on the S26 Ultra to make it feel like a console, and it's fairly inexpensive for what you get. Now, all those games worked really well with controllers, but some of them were a tiny bit janky, like Warframe for example, so my next picks are the ones that I think are the best Android games to play with a controller. And the first game that I think works really well with a controller on Android is Dead Cells. This one at the moment is actually free if you've got a play pass. Dead Cells is a fast, stylish, difficult, and it has that one more run problem where you tell yourself you'll stop after one attempt and then suddenly it's dark outside. This is one of those games that feels like it was made for a controller. You can play it with your touch controls too if you don't have a controller, but I wouldn't recommend that unless you enjoy suffering. With my controller though, Dead Cells becomes one of the best action games on Android. It's It's also not going to melt your S26 Ultra. It's a very sensibly optimized game that feels like a traditional arcade game, but with a bit of 2026 in it. It's really popular, it's got great reviews, and there will be a link in the description for you. Next up is one that you all know about, but it just has to go on the list, and it is Call of Duty Mobile. And look, I know this has been around for absolutely ages at this point, but there's a genuine reason it still dominates the list. It's polished, it's fast, and it's still the easiest shooter recommendation on Android, especially now that Warzone has essentially vanished into the background, but we don't talk about Warzone. You've got all your favorite game modes, including zombies, and then you do have a sort of loot box system as well, which is fair enough. I mean, they've got to make money somehow. Performance-wise, the S26 Ultra handles it exactly how you'd expect. It's locked, smooth, and honestly feels like you're playing on a console. Again, you can easily max the settings out on this. Admittedly, it does get a little bit warm, but as soon as you slap a controller on it, you won't even notice until it starts melting. Anyway, next is Zenless Zone Zero, and this game is just pure style. It's fast, flashy, completely chaotic, and as a creative, I really do appreciate the art direction in this game. I absolutely love the style, the colors pop on the S26 Ultra, and it's a really easy game to pick up and put down. The combat animations are ridiculously fluid, and the whole thing just has that premium Hoyoverse polish where even the loading screens look like they had some effort put into them. There's a pretty interactive storyline if you like that kind of thing, and you can switch between several different characters, even in the middle of a game, and each character brings their own abilities. It is a perfect game for controllers in my opinion, and I honestly don't know why you'd want to cover half the display with your thumbs when a game looks this good. Anyway, next up I've got another racing game for you. This is Wreckfest. It's racing, but with all of the politeness removed. Instead of clean overtakes and perfect racing lines, Wreckfest is about smashing other cars up, bullying your way around the corners, surviving absolute carnage, and somehow convincing yourself that every crash was someone else's fault. And that's exactly why it works so well on mobile. It's insanely fun, there's no massive learning curve, you don't need to spend 40 minutes creating an account, choosing a server, reading tutorials, and claiming 19 daily rewards before you actually do anything. You just start racing, start crashing, and then start causing problems. It looks good, it feels physical with a controller, it's one of the most fun racing games you can play on Android at the moment. Grid Legends is the polished racing game, but Wreckfest is the one that you play when you want to switch your brain off a little bit and send someone into a wall. Next, who's absolutely sick of being forced to have an internet connection for games that you've already paid for? Me. So this section is dedicated to the best Android games that you can play offline. And my first great offline game is Vampire Survivors. This game looks simple, it sounds simple, it starts simple, and then about 10 minutes later, your screen is full of enemies, numbers, weapons, explosions, projectiles, coins, and your brain is making the same noises as an overheating laptop. Vampire Survivors is one of the best examples of mobile game that doesn't need to be complicated to be brilliant. You move around, your weapons fire automatically, you level up, choose upgrades, and slowly become an unstoppable screen clearing disaster. And it is perfect on the S26 Ultra because the big display makes the chaos even easier to read. It's the kind of game that in fairness can look basic in a screenshot, but once you actually play it, you suddenly understand why people are so addicted to it. It is perfect for quick sessions unless you have no self-control like me, in which case it is perfect for accidentally losing an entire evening. And in a similar fashion, my next game is Slay the Spire, and if you do like the idea of strategy game that slowly makes you feel like either a genius or an idiot, sometimes within the same minute, this one is one of the best games you can install. It's a deck building roguelike where every run is ever so slightly different. You pick cards, build your deck, fight enemies, choose relics, take risks, and then usually you realize far too late that your entire strategy was held together by hope and poor decision making, if you're me anyway. This is another game that doesn't need the S26 Ultra's full power, but it absolutely benefits from the bigger display. Reading cards, checking effects, planning your next move, it all feels so much better on a larger screen. And because it works so well in the shorter sessions, it's one of the best Android games for flights, holidays, or just lying on the sofa pretending you're about to be productive. Next is probably my all-time favorite mobile game that gets on every single one of my phones, and it is Bloons Tower Defense 6. It is incredibly addictive, and although it might not match the graphics of some of the other games we featured, you might actually be grateful to have an S26 Ultra in your hands when things get a little bit crazy. In fairness, early on, it is quite a calm game. You place your monkeys, pop balloons, upgrade towers, and it feels like everything is nicely under control. Then later on, once you really get into the game and start upgrading your towers and unlocking those paragon monkeys, I mean, things just get absolutely insane. And you really can sit down and play this for hours, but also you can pick it up and put it down really easily. And this is why Bloons Tower Defense 6 has always been one of my favorite games. It's such a good mobile game. It's easy to understand, it's genuinely tactical, constantly being updated, and once you've paid for it, it doesn't feel like it's trying to mug you off every 30 seconds. That and having the S26 Ultra really does help when you get to the later rounds. Definitely worth a download in my opinion. Anyway, my next game is one that kind of flew off the radar a little bit, which is a bit of a shame because it's such a stunning game. It's Stardew Valley. And yes, I know Stardew Valley is not exactly the first game you think of when you hear S26 Ultra gaming beast, but that's why it belongs here, because if the S26 Ultra is going to become a mini console, it needs more than shooters, racing games, and flashy action RPGs in my opinion. It needs those long-term comfort games as well. Stardew Valley is farming, fishing, mining, crafting, relationships, town life, and slowly turning a sad little patch of land into something you can become really proud of. It is one of the best games to have installed on a phone because it is so calm, deep, and endlessly playable. And on the S26 Ultra, the larger display really helps here again. Menus are easier to read, the world feels nicer to look at, and if you pair it with a controller, it becomes such a lovely handheld experience. This probably isn't the game that you show someone to prove the S26 Ultra is powerful, but it might be one of the games you actually keep installed the longest. Now, let's talk about Pokemon alternatives, because for whatever reason, Pokemon still refuses to make that classic Pokemon game that we've all been crying out for on Android. So if you ever have searched for the best Pokemon alternative on Android, or games like Pokemon on Android, these are the ones that I'd pick. And my first great Pokemon alternative is Nexomon Extinction. If you watch my S25 Ultra games video, you'll know that I've already had a little bit of a soft spot for Nexomon. The reason I love it so much is that although it does mimic the original Pokemon game, and honestly, it probably is the closest thing you're going to get to classic Pokemon on Android, it's not Pokemon. It is its own game. It's not a complete rip-off. There are loads of Nexomon to collect. The story is actually decent, and it does give you that old school handheld RPG feeling that a lot of us grew up with. This is not the most demanding game on the list, but that's not the point. If you're searching for a Pokemon style game on Android, this is still one of the first games that I'd try. Next up is Coromon, and this is another brilliant monster taming game if you want something that really scratches that classic Pokemon itch. Coromon has a slightly different visual style, a clean battle system, and enough of its own identity that it doesn't just feel like someone asked AI to make a legally distinct Pokemon. The colors are punchy, the creature designs is fun, and it has that proper handheld RPG pacing. Again, it's not the sort of game that's going to melt your S26 Ultra. It's here because the S26 Ultra gives you that big, sharp, colourful way to play one of the better monster catching games on Android. If your search history has ever included best Pokemon games for Android or games like Pokemon for Android, Nexomon and Coromon are the two that I definitely start with. Now, to end the Pokemon section, I did want to just feature one official Pokemon game. Is Pokemon Unite. Now, although it's not the Pokemon alternative you were probably hoping for, the reason I included it in my list was because I downloaded it by accident and actually really enjoyed it, so I definitely recommend giving it a try. And this is a very different kind of Pokemon game. It's not the traditional Pokemon game everyone keeps begging for on mobile, because apparently that would be far too simple and would make too much sense. Instead, Pokemon Unite is more of a team-based arena game where you play as a Pokemon, level up during the match, evolve, unlock moves, and then try to score points whilst the other team tries to ruin your day. And honestly, it is really good fun. It's colourful, fast, easy to understand at a basic level at least, but there's enough of a leveling up system that you can clearly get much better at it over time. The S26 Ultra handles it easily, and the big bright display makes the whole thing feel really clean and probably, honestly, gives you a bit of an edge over other people. The only thing that does annoy me about this game, and indeed other games that are very similar, is that controller support hasn't been made a priority, and it's such a shame because it would be absolutely amazing with proper controller support. Anyway, now let's move into some really exciting stuff. We're going to cover the bigger RPGs, survival games, and the open world style games. These are the games that really make Android gaming feel less like a quick mobile filler and more like something that you can actually sink some proper time into. And first up is a game that is really close to my heart. It's one that I spent thousands of hours on PC, and ironically, somehow they've managed to optimize it for mobile, but not PC is Ark Survival Evolved. It's an open world survival, but with dinosaurs, base building, crafting, exploration, and that constant feeling that something's gonna jump out of the jungle and absolutely ruin your day. You start with almost nothing, gather resources, build tools, craft weapons, create a base, and then eventually start taming and even riding dinosaurs, which is still one of the coolest ideas in any game that I've ever seen. And this is where mobile gaming really starts to feel a bit ridiculous, because years ago the idea of playing something this big on a phone would have sounded absolutely ridiculous. Now on something like the S26 Ultra, it is really making sense. It does look awesome. Anyway, I completely understand if Ark wasn't quite your thing, but I couldn't recommend it enough. If it's not your thing though, definitely try Genshin Impact. I know it's an obvious pick and it's been in every single best Android games video ever, but it's there for a reason. It is a genuinely really well optimized game for your Android phone. And on the S26 Ultra, it still looks absolutely gorgeous, even several years on. The world, the colors, the music, the exploration, all of it just suits your phone incredibly well. And now that controller support on Android is much more of a thing, Genshin Impact makes way more sense if you're trying to turn your phone into a console-like setup. There is a serious warning here though. If you do install this game, you might lose all of your free time. Next, I've got another really great one though. It's Wuthering Waves. If you like the idea of Genshin Impact but want something a little faster, sharper, and more combat orientated, this is the one that I look at. Wuthering Waves has a really nice sense of speed. The movement feels really good. The combat has a little bit more bite to it, and visually it looks excellent on a flagship phone like the S26 Ultra. This is one of those games that makes mobile gaming feel like it's starting to move beyond good enough for a phone, is wanting to compete with the sort of experience that people are getting on proper gaming hardware. Now, I would still test your own controller setup properly, because support and feel can vary depending on the game and device, but even with touch controls, this is a really impressive game on the S26 Ultra. If you want an open world action RPG that feels a little bit faster and more aggressive than Genshin, Wuthering Waves is absolutely worth trying. Anyway, next up is Honkai Star Rail, and honestly it's a little bit of a wild card for me. It's a little bit different. It is a turn-based game, so there is no need for twitch reactions, the perfect controller support, or you sweating over the screen like your life depends on it. But it looks brilliant. The animations are polished, the world design is strong, the characters have loads of personality, and because it is turn-based, it actually suits mobile really, really well. And that is something that people forget. Not every great mobile game needs to be a console action game squeezed onto a phone. Sometimes the best mobile games are the ones that understand the device they're on. Honkai Star Rail is a great one because you can play it properly on your phone without needing a controller, but it still looks expensive enough to feel like it belongs on a flagship, which happens to make it a very good pick for the S26 Ultra. Do let me know in the comments which your favorite game was, and if you want to get yourself that controller, it will be in the pinned comment and the description for you. In the meantime, check out my full S26 Ultra review in the top corner now, and I'll see you over there.